Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Using a Job Board to Revolutionize Your EDO's Branding and Market Strategy. My name is Ted Dacko, and I'll serve as your host today. And we have two featured speakers. First, Michael Kling, co-founder of TrueJob. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Ted.
And second, Jenn Cornell, VP of Marketing for Ann Arbor Spark. Hello, Jenn.
Hello.
All right. A few housekeeping issues before we begin. All of you are in listen-only mode to make sure that we cut down on cut out the background noise. There is a dialog box for you to ask your questions. You can type them into that dialog box. We're going to try to get to all the questions at the end of the webinar, and if we don't, we'll get back to you individually. The slides for this presentation will be available to you, and a recorded version of the webinar will be available and sent to each of you within the next 2 days. And if you're interested in anything that you hear today, we'd be happy to follow up with you. If you're having any trouble with the webinar, try moving your mouse to the top or bottom of the screen. We're using the product Zoom, and that's where the Zoom menu is. And check your volume and your headphone connection if you're having problems with the audio. Of course, if you're having problems with the audio, you can't hear what I said anyway. So let's go to our agenda. Our agenda is I'm going to do an introduction to Mike Kling in just a second, who's going to talk about the importance generally of a job board in an economic development organization. And then we're going to turn it over to Jenn Cornell, and I'm going to have a series of questions for Jenn about specifically the role and the benefits to the marketing department of a job board. Then we'll cover benefits in general, we'll go to Q&A, and we will cover next steps. So let's start with the introduction to Mike. Mike is a co-founder of TrueJob. He was trained at MIT, and he's responsible for two very critical functions at TrueJob. One is product development, and the other one is to make sure that customers are totally 100% satisfied. He is committed to and passionate about helping economic development organizations succeed, and particularly with respect to their job boards. So, Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Ted.
So tell us why a job board is so critical to an economic development organization.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about today, so that's a good place to start. I know that we have some varied economic development organizations in attendance, so some of you are just one-person shops. We've got some larger ones as well. And you're also really varied in how you do your marketing. So some of you might do internal marketing, or maybe you use outside agencies or marketing groups. But regardless of all these differences, marketing efforts for economic development organizations have a lot of the same goals. And the first one is to improve the perception of your brand in your community. If you have a better brand, it's going to be easier for you to both attract new businesses to your area and also to serve those existing businesses that you have right now. And kind of as you're doing this, you're going to be trying to measure your success in different ways, measuring different metrics depending on your organization. That could include things like how much web traffic you're getting right now, or maybe you care more about how many subscribers you have to your marketing newsletters and how those email campaigns go. And you need the ability to track those key metrics around your marketing campaigns so that you can improve them. And ultimately, you have this goal of being able to continue to support your community. And to do that, you're going to need to maintain or increase your funding, whether that's public funding, private funding, some combination of both. That's going to allow you to continue making an impact. And as we're going to see, as you're going to hear from Jenn, a job board is really a way that you can directly address all of these things. So here we kind of, on this slide, you can see the three main stakeholders around a job board. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the problem is that a job board's trying to solve. So first, economic development organizations, that's you in attendance today. Limited funding, you may have limited resources, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you're making an impact to your stakeholders and ultimately to your funders. Then we have employers in your area. So these companies are looking for talent. They're looking for workers to fill their open positions. And then we have the job seekers. And these are individuals looking for positions that they can take on, that they're qualified for. Now, if you haven't thought about your role in making these connections before, just remember that your organization really has, you have expertise in your region. You already have connections to employers, whether that's through incentives or programs, whatever it is that you're doing in your area. And so you have this great opportunity to help make these connections between companies and individuals, and a job board can help you do that.
So, Mike, what's wrong with using products like Indeed or Monster or some of the other big job boards that are available in the marketplace today? Why shouldn't people just consider using those?
Yeah, that's a common question. It's a very important one. A lot of companies right now in your area probably are using resources like this, whether it's Indeed, whether it's Monster. Something we see somewhat frequently is on economic development websites, maybe you have a section with resources and you might even link to some of these sites. Now, the kind of first main problem with this, imagine you have, say, a business owner come into your website, or an individual that's maybe considering coming to your region. As soon as they find this resource, they're leaving your website and you're losing whatever engagement you had with them. And tied into that, as soon as someone goes off to one of these third-party websites, you're also losing your branding, and you're losing any opportunity that you have to really be part of this process of hiring, and any ability to get credit for being part of that process. Another big problem is that these large job sites, they care a lot more about having a large quantity of jobs on there as opposed to the quality of those jobs. So you, as an economic development organization, you know what the key industries are in your region, what the growing companies are. You know what you want to highlight about your region to present it in the best light. And you can do that using curation. And curation we'll talk about, but you need the ability to choose which companies and which jobs are appearing. And you can't do that if you're just sending people to these other resources.
So there's a big difference between people looking for janitorial positions and people looking for advanced programming positions then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And finally, you're losing critical data when people go off to other resources. So you're not going to be able to see what's happening, what companies are succeeding, who's hiring, are my marketing campaigns being effective, what kinds of results am I seeing? So by having a job board that's under your control, you can track all of these key metrics and really understand what kind of impact you're making. So how does TrueJob fit into this picture? Well, TrueJob gives you a better option than these other resources. TrueJob exists to help economic development organizations do a better job of promoting and marketing their organizations to their communities using job opportunities. And the way that we do this is using a cloud-based job board software, which connects job seekers and employers. It integrates into your existing website, and the whole time it's tracking these key talent metrics, these key marketing metrics for you to use to evaluate how effective you're being. So I think that, and instead of me talking about it, I think we're gonna.
Yeah, so Mike, I guess what I'm hearing you say is that this allows the economic development organization to capture the critical jobs in their region on their website or in their environment, so that they're not dispersing all this. And as these job seekers and other people are signing up and trying to learn more, it gives them the ability to capture more information to promote other events that the economic development organization might have. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. All of that stuff. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. So, Jenn, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. You are the VP of Marketing at Spark.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about Spark. And is it the largest economic development organization in Michigan?
Yes. So
Okay.
Ann Arbor Spark is the largest EDO in the state of Michigan. Our mission really is to promote Ann Arbor as a destination for business, both startup and global brands, and talent.
And talent. And How does your role as the VP of Marketing fit into all of that? What goals do you have in all of that?
We have a lot of goals that we track. So everything from website traffic, making sure that we're actually able to report out increases in our traffic, views on videos that we produce, the number of views our press releases get, the number of media mentions we get. So my job is to sort of oversee all of those moving parts and to make sure that we are continuing to hit the high bar that has been set for us and by us.
So what I think I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is you are measured by the engagement rate with the local community, both in terms of companies and people. And you didn't say anything about the success rate at filling positions. I'm guessing that's in there as well, right?
Yeah, so we aren't actually measured by that specific metric, but we are measured by the number of people who open up our talent newsletter, which is tied directly to TrueJob, and the number of people who visit that part of our website. So we are measured by the number of overall website hits that we get each year, and the TrueJob portal is actually the most visited part of our website.
Do you think those are common goals for a marketing department in an EDO?
I think so, yeah. I mean, if talent is one of the most important parts of what an economic development organization does and addresses, and I think it's also not only just to be able to show to companies who want to come here that there is a lot of talent, there is a lot of interest in the jobs that are here in this community, but to be able to then offer that as a service to the companies that are hiring, to say that we can make, if you come here, we're going to make all of your positions as visible as we possibly can.
Now, as a larger EDO, you have a multi-person marketing department. How many people do you have?
There are 5 of us total.
And what kinds of things do these folks do?
Yeah, so we have director of marketing and communications who's focused very squarely on generating content for blogs, for our website, for external purposes like bylined articles. I also do a lot of that because my background is in PR. So a lot of the PR function and creating content for that falls on me. We have an AdWords graphic design person. So they're an AdWords certified and technical person who also is very artistic and does a great job with our graphic design work. And then we have someone who's in charge of events and someone who's in charge of our social media presence.
Now, for theoretical purposes, if you were a one-person department, would you still have done still focused on the job board?
Yes, because it makes it feeds content to every other channel. And so being able to talk to a company that's hiring because we notice they're posting a lot of jobs, that's something that we can then turn into a blog post. In having jobs actually that we know are popular, we can look and say, wow, there's a lot of jobs right now around software. And so we could do a spotlight on that dedicated as a social media campaign or as an AdWords campaign. So it makes everything that we do a lot more informed and gives us, again, content right from TrueJob that we can pull and use.
So do you use an external marketing communications firm, or do you do everything internally in terms of your website and market messaging?
No, that's all done internally. We do farm out to a firm when we have large graphic design projects like an annual report that would just be, it wouldn't make sense for us to try and do internally, but all of that is done internal.
So TrueJob is not your website. It is a component of your website then?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, very good. So I guess you probably answered this already, but so why did Spark decide to offer a job board? Do you think we've already covered that topic, or is there more that you want to say about that?
I think that the reasons that Mike outlined in his sort of setup for this are all very relevant to Spark's decision to have a job board and to offer one. And it's interesting because when you were talking about it, we had previously, before engaging with you, we had a job board that we used, but it was really just a back-end system that didn't offer any of the insight and reporting metrics and things that TrueJob offers to us. So making the switch actually took what we had that was just functional and made it actually useful.
So some of these metrics that the new job board provides, what are some of the questions that it answers for you that you weren't able to answer in the past?
Yeah, well, so this isn't really it is a question, but who's actually using our job portal and how do we better communicate with them was something that we struggled with. And we shared that with you guys, and that the capabilities was baked in. And so you guys actually enhanced the platform to allow job seekers, should they choose, to give us their email address and to be added to our talent newsletter. And so that was something that we never could have done internal, and has been, as part of our overall communication strategy really effective. We thought we were doing really well before with our job seeker newsletter. We had a 15% open rate and about a 4% click-through rate. And so once we started implementing the capabilities that you built in to allow job seekers to opt in, we could have clean lists. So people, when they find a job, will opt out of that email address. And so we didn't have a good mechanism for capturing new addresses to keep our list very targeted and very focused on job seekers. After you started giving us the ability to pull lists, contact lists, for those who had opted in from TrueJob, our open rate went up to over 25%, and the click-through rate more than doubled to 11%, and it continues to improve. Yeah, it's amazing. It's our highest performing newsletter as well.
Great. So what do you use these lists for? What kinds of things do you use them for? Yeah,
primarily, so we have a talent newsletter that we produce in-house. And I mean, we are a team of 5, which I know some people are probably sitting there thinking, I'm an office of 1, don't complain.
Well, maybe part-time.
Right, part-time. So we like to make sure if we're putting out, we're doing something. It needs to be valuable. And so we use obviously the email component that we talked about, but we are also able to go through and say, wow, Thomson Reuters, for instance, a major employer in our region, you've got 8 jobs. Let's make sure we do a spotlight on Thomson Reuters in this job seeker newsletter. Let's make sure that, wow, there are 10 graphic design jobs. We should absolutely pull a couple of those. So it makes our content more informed.
And so I'm going to take a step back for a second. And Spark is organized from an operations perspective into 2 pieces. There is a group that focuses on the larger established employers, and there is a group that's focused on the startup community. Is this functionality used by both of those groups?
Yes, absolutely. It's used by both. And I think part of it is they see that we actually engage the TrueJob as a tool, as a marketing tool. So they know that if they post to the job board, there's a good chance it's going to end up on social media. So it just amplifies and helps a startup who might get lost in the shuffle next to a Duo Security or a Barracuda or a Nokia. They might get lost in the shuffle, but they know if they're actually posting to the job board, we're going to give equal love.
Okay, very good. Now, your marketing department, or actually Spark in general, does a lot of different kinds of events. You will have something called Tech Trek. You will have entrepreneurs who come back during Thanksgiving, etc. How does the job board help you with your other external events?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because it came up. You guys got a shout out yesterday at the Tech Trek luncheon, where Tech Trek is a walking tour of downtown Ann Arbor's innovation businesses, about 70 participants. And we very strongly, repeatedly encourage our employers to put their jobs on the portal. It gives us a different way when we're always beating that drum, sign up for Tech Trek. Here's what you're going to get out of Tech Trek. Tech Trek's cool. It allows us to engage the job seeker audience as well. So not just the general public, not just the participating companies, but it gives us a new way to talk about the event to a very specific audience.
And we sit in the shadow of a tiny little liberal arts college here called the University of Michigan. So I'm guessing this gives you an opportunity to take students who may not necessarily be aware of the job opportunities in the place that they went to school, and to have them continue to live and work in this community. Yeah,
absolutely. So we engaged them through Tech Trek, but we also engaged them through Tech Homecoming, which is an event we host the night before Thanksgiving, where the companies that are hiring gather together at a local, usually we rent out a restaurant, and have the opportunity to talk about available positions. And when we follow up with the people, either they registered or attended, it doesn't matter, we promote the job board and say, here's a way for you to find out what's going on in this region. And if you're coming from a city like Chicago, or we're attracting you back from New York or California, wherever you happen to have decided to go, but now you're looking to come back home, there can be a perception by some that there aren't a lot of good tech jobs in the Midwest and in Michigan. We're not considered a tech hub, although I hope that's changing. If we're doing our job correctly, it should be changing. But the idea is you don't have to worry about your trailing spouse not having a job. You don't have to worry if this position with whatever company you get hired in to do software development doesn't work out. There are 20 other software jobs available. Just look at the job board and it'll speak for itself. Good.
Now, Mike talked a little bit about the curation process. What kinds of companies / positions are you most interested in, whether they're large or small?
Yeah, so our mission is focused around innovation-based businesses. And so for us, driving industries like mobility, IT, healthcare, health science, bioinformatics. So our focus is very narrow. And I think you touched on it earlier when you said, you're not going to go to an Indeed or a Monster because you're going to have to sift through jobs that might not be relevant, or recruiters who have posted and, might not actually be the best job fit. For us, it gives us some quality assurance that the right jobs that align with our mission are being promoted out.
So you have your annual meeting coming up next week, I believe, right?
Yep.
And so there are statistics that will you be able to grab statistics about the job board that can be used to help you with your overall branding and messaging to the Ann Arbor community?
Yeah, so what we measure, so key metrics for the marketing team are web traffic, page views, the number of jobs posted, number of jobs viewed, the number of jobs filled, our newsletter signups, and then just basic demographic data. And all of that is very interesting to various stakeholders for various reasons. And TrueJob gives us not only the capabilities to accomplish those goals very successfully, but have meaningful data that we can verify and push out. So for instance, we've been able to confirm that more than 50 jobs, a little over 50 jobs have been filled by companies that we actively engage with since the beginning of the year. So we can actually use that statistic and tell people, this is why the job board is a very important resource, and this is a way that we are serving the community in a meaningful way.
Helps you justify your existence.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Always a good thing.
And talk a little bit, if you could, about how you use the job board in your social media campaigns. I noticed that I see on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we go into the job, when we go into TrueJob, again, if we see that there's a trend around a specific type of company or a specific type of industry or a specific type of job, then that to us is kind of an alarm bell to say, wow, there's a lot of interest around here. And if we can promote these, then we can get the right type of talent connected with our message and with the job board, and hopefully get them to engage over and over and come back, therefore improving our web metrics and everything else, signing up for our newsletter. So I think for us, that's just a way to be smarter about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
And I think you touched upon this already, but I'm curious about how you might, I think you said already, but I'll ask it anyway, use the job board to recruit companies to the Ann Arbor region. Anything else you wanted to add on around that?
No, I mean, I think it's something that it differentiates us because we're able to say, we do have a lot of qualified candidates. We do have a lot of good ways that we promote the job board. And it's just another way to prove value to businesses that are considering us over, a place in Ohio or a place in California, wherever they might happen to be. It's just a service that Spark offers that sets us apart and is more of a concierge type service, right? It's a very specialized service that we're able to offer.
And your CEO is on board with this whole process?
Absolutely. It's all of the things. So for instance, one of the things that we report out to, we enjoy some public funding. One of the metrics that we are required to report out to them is website traffic. And to be able to show that we're investing in the website, it's a good investment. And more than half of our monthly visits to the website, which is a hard metric and a hard goal we have to accomplish, are directly to the job portal.
I'm going to go backwards for a second. You have these other events, Tech Trek, you have training programs. I forget the name of the one where the homecoming, etc. Is the job board a way for you to have a call to action, so it's just not an event and everybody goes home, but they have a follow-up? Is that how you would use this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not only, it's interesting that you raise the question that way, because it's not only a follow-up, a call to action to the event attendees, so job seekers or general public. We send a thank you note out, a thank you email, and embed a link so that they know to go to the job portal, to continue to look for those jobs, to sign up for our newsletter via the portal. But it's also a way for us to follow back up with the companies and say, you just had this opportunity to meet all this exciting talent. Make sure you're putting your jobs there so we can continue to promote and support your needs in that way.
And you don't have a person dedicated to talent on your team, right?
No, that is correct.
So this serves as that function for you. It's an automated way to focus on talent without you having to spend resources to do that. Is that correct?
It's very simple. We have a person on our staff who goes in. We do, obviously, because we are mission-based and have a very fairly narrow focus within the innovation space, the types of businesses and companies that we want to serve and can serve. We have someone that goes in once a day for about 10 minutes and just makes sure that approves the job. So you're University of Michigan, you are absolutely hiring for a tech job, get on the portal. It's not a very time-consuming process at all for our staff, which is a bonus.
Do you have any success stories that you had about individuals or companies with opportunities in the job board? I think you said you already got 50 placements through your job board this year, but is any in the last year or so that stand out in terms of particular success stories? Yeah,
we interviewed, so we feature a talent story on our blog and in our newsletter once a month. And so we had just talked to a gentleman who was using, and he mentioned it just off the cuff, but he was looking to come back. He and his wife had started a family. They didn't like the cost of living or the hustle bustle of trying to raise their kid in Silicon Valley. And so they were looking for a job back here, and happened to be going through the job portal, knew that he wanted to find he had a very small industry that he was looking in, and found the job there. And so we were talking to him because he was a relocation come back to Michigan story, which is something that we always want to tell. And he just happened to say, by the way, I found this job on the job portal. So it's just a really nice coincidence that he brought it up and told us, but it was a great success story. He actually got hired with a global company here. So,
there's pardon me offering some commentary on this, but back in the day, I had sold a company to a company in Ann Arbor. I ended up coming to Ann Arbor from the East Coast, from the New York area. And at the end of that deal, because there was no such thing as a job board back then, and I was unaware of what was going on in the Ann Arbor region. Even though my family stayed here, I ended up taking a job back in the New York area, and I commuted every Monday to New York and every Thursday or Friday back from New York with a plane full of people who were doing the same thing as I was doing. So it probably would have been very, very useful to understand more about what was going on here, so I didn't have to have that painful commute. So interesting. So Jenn, let me ask you this. What questions should I have asked you that I didn't ask you in terms of the marketing department? Is there anything that I missed that you think you could think of?
I think for us, the big pain point that we experienced before, and I touched on it briefly, is that we didn't have before a steady flow of new and active contacts for our newsletters. And so that made that activity not as effective as it could have been. Our lists basically withered and died and became stagnant. And so in an ideal world, if you're doing your job correctly as an EDO, you're going to see a huge turnover rate on that job seeker newsletter or on your job seeker email target lists. And so without this ability to capture who we know is actively looking for a job today, I don't know how else we would have been able to do that, or be able to do it in a way that wasn't just extremely challenging to us without TrueJob. And it's a huge benefit to us.
Would you say that this is one of your top 3 critical initiatives that you have as an EDO?
Oh, absolutely. So talent is huge, right? And so whether, and there's a big perception both on the, especially on the job seeker part, like I said earlier, that there aren't those types of jobs here. And so we can't tell employers, come here, we can guarantee the talent will come without being able to show that critical mass. And this is just a really easy way to do it. And it's credible because it's a job board. It's not just us saying we have the talent and the jobs, we're showing it.
So Mike, back to you. Talk to me a little bit about the benefits and summarize the benefits if you possibly could.
Sure. So thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah.
On this slide here, we just have a summary of a few metrics, and Jen even mentioned some others as well. But first, as she mentioned, right now, over 50% of all the website traffic that Spark gets goes to their job board. And so, if you don't have this kind of resource right now, think about that. Think about the potential in doubling your web traffic and what kind of impact that would make. They've engaged with over 300 local employers, and the job seeker engagement has increased over 60%. And so that means more job seekers finding jobs, viewing jobs, ultimately getting hired. And I know there were even more metrics that Jen mentioned. The increase in the click-through rate in the email campaigns, more than 50 jobs filled this year. So
can I jump in with
yes,
a real
please.
quick metric that I didn't mention? Since switching to TrueJob, our traffic to our job board, which previously, we had the clunky system I talked about earlier, it's gone up. The traffic has gone up 125%. That's over 188,000 individual page views. And so that's significant. This is not an insignificant number we're talking about.
And that's from I wouldn't say a poor job board, but something that was ineffective to effective. I wonder what would have happened if you've gone from 0 to this. I mean, because you already had one and you converted, most of the people on the phone don't even have a job board. So they're going to see some enormous improvement.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So I'll wrap up by just summarizing some of the benefits that we've heard about through this conversation. So first, again, that increase in web traffic, potentially being able to double your web traffic if this isn't something that you have right now. Highlighting the ability to highlight key metrics. So whether that's page views to your website, or being able to say you have filled this many jobs in your community, or increased your email campaign, the number of contacts you have. These are all metrics that you'll be able to track and improve. As Jen mentioned, a constant stream of fresh content for you. So as you get new jobs, new companies coming in, you can use those in whatever marketing materials, whether it's blog posts or social media. That can be really valuable. Giving event visitors a clear call to action. Talked about this as well. So whatever event it is, making sure that those attendees have some way of following up. If people met companies and they are interested, send them back to your website and start making those connections. Growing your contact database. Again, TrueJob enables you to collect information from job seekers, contact information that then you can use to reach out to them, re-engage them, bring them back to your website, start helping them get hired. Improving all of these things are going to help you improve the perception of your brand. And as you do that, you're going to have an easier time attracting new companies to your region. You're going to be able to do more to serve the existing companies in your region. And as you're doing all of this, TrueJob enables you to track what's happening and keep track of all these metrics. And that powerful reporting and analytics capability is going to enable you to share how successful you're being and justify all your efforts with your stakeholders and ultimately your funders.
Okay, so let's move to the Q&A section. And of course, Mike, as you would expect, the first question is about pricing. And Michelle writes in, funding is always a challenge for us. Please tell me that this is not a $50,000 a year product.
No. So the way funding works, or sorry, the way that the cost of TrueJob works is we break it into two components. We have an implementation fee, and then we have an annual subscription fee. And the implementation fee is pays for branding the job board to match your website. It pays for training for people on your team. We actually do some other things like pre-populating the job board ahead of time with high quality job postings from your area, so that we can make sure that it's successful at launch. And that fee starts at $850. And then we have the annual subscription fee, and that covers all of the hosting of the job board, all of the ongoing support that we provide both to you and to any companies or users coming in your job board. And that fee starts at $5,000 a year, just over $5,000 a year, and increases for larger communities.
So this is Jen, this is a fraction of an FTE.
Yes.
And generating the value of potentially multiple FTEs.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a valuable part of our marketing metrics, and it's a valuable part of the content that we're able to push out. So.
Okay. Luke writes in, how long does it take to implement this?
Yeah, that's an important question. So this is not a long process. So adding it to your website takes almost no time. We just give you a little snippet to drop into wherever you want it to appear. And then we work with you to develop, if you want to develop a promotional campaign, we can work with you on that. Again, I mentioned if you want to pull in some high quality postings from your area to get started, we can help you with that as well. And all of that process can take less than a week. So we can really get you started quickly on this. This is not a months long implementation.
Okay. Charlene asked the question, obviously this would apply as easily to an EDO focused on a manufacturing or other kind of region rather than a technology region. There are no constraints around the kinds of jobs and companies that can be curated, correct?
That's exactly right. So yeah, I mean, we heard about the kinds of jobs that are important to Ann Arbor, but obviously whatever your community is, whatever it's important to you, you can reflect that. You can use the ability to curate the jobs that are appearing and the companies that are appearing to really match what you want to be focusing on in your community.
Okay. Michael writes in, how can I get more information? We're going to cover that in just a second, so I will ignore that question for the moment. Do you see any other questions up there?
Taking a look.
Sort of lost my screen, so.
That's okay. I don't see any more questions right now.
Okay, very good. So let's move to Michael's question. What are the next steps and how could you learn more information? So you could visit the website www.TrueJob.com, which will give you a good explanation of what the product and the company is about. There is a white paper focused specifically on the needs of economic development organizations. There is a case study on the Ann Arbor Spark implementation, and incidentally, we have implementations throughout the country in Arizona and Wisconsin, et cetera, right?
That's right.
Okay. There's a recorded version of this and prior webinars that are available. I mean, the prior webinars are already there. Today's webinar will be up within a couple of days. There is also an interview with Phil Santer, who's the chief of staff and runs the larger portion of Spark's economic development organization. In other words, he focuses on the larger companies. You can download a report book on the kinds of metrics that you could expect to get as an economic development organization. Should you implement a job board, there is a free consultation on implementing a job board, and contact information is contact@truejob.com, and we would be very happy, the company would be very happy to follow up with you, answer any questions, and walk you through a mutually agreeable evaluation process about how you could learn as to whether this would work for you. With that, Jen, thank you again so much.
Yeah, happy to be here, and I'm happy. anyone who's sort of on the fence, I just want to say you guys have been incredibly responsive. When we mentioned wanting to capture emails or wanting to have different metrics, you guys have been just amazing with customer service. So I'm happy to support you guys however I can.
Very good. And so, Jen, you can expect 200 emails when you get that.
I thought you were going to say $200 right now.
No. We don't pay for reference.
No.
And Mike, thank you again for your for doing the webinar. It was very useful, and I'm sure the people who listened in got a great deal out of it.
Thanks, Ed.
And with that, folks, we will wish you a pleasant afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Goodbye.